Hello, learners. Welcome back to the Motivated Mind Zone.
Right.
Today, we are launching a deep dive into something I think almost every single person learning a language runs into. It's that frustrating obstacle, hesitation,
Hmm.
that maddening pause, that tiny moment of silence right before you speak English where your brain just seems to grind to a halt.
It's the ultimate momentum killer.
It is. You have the words, the vocabulary's in there somewhere, you know the grammar, but when it's time to actually, perform,
Hmm.
the flow just breaks.
It does, and it takes a huge emotional toll, too. You walk away from a conversation feeling like you failed, even though you know the answer was right there, it was on the tip of your tongue.
Exactly.
So our sources today, they're not focused on adding more words to your list. They're all about uh, practical, actionable strategies, neurological hacks, even. Our mission is pretty simple.
Okay.
We want to help you get to that natural, smooth, confident English speech by getting rid of that need to search for words or translate in your head.
I love that because we know you, the listener, you've absorbed so much information. The problem isn't a lack of knowledge. It's about speed. It's about how efficiently you can retrieve it and perform.
Right?
So before we jump into the fixes, we really have to understand what's happening in that tiny moment of hesitation. What are these sort of invisible walls that are blocking your speech?
We need to frame this problem right away because the research really boils it down to two major mental roadblocks. And they're connected.
Okay.
And these are almost universal experiences. I think everyone will recognize them. And just, recognizing them is the first step to tearing them down.
So what's the first one?
The first and maybe the most crippling one from, a performance anxiety standpoint is the fear of making a mistake.
Ah, yes, the big one.
It's huge. This anxiety, it triggers your internal editor, that little voice in your head that's judging everything.
The perfectionist.
The perfectionist, exactly. It causes you to mentally rehearse and edit and proofread every single thing before it even leaves your mouth. You're trying to be spontaneously perfect in real time.
Which is impossible.
It's neurologically impossible for fast communication. And this constant self-correction, that's what leads to that choppy, slow, unnatural rhythm we all hate.
And that pressure, it isn't just about language, is it? It's social. You know the words, but the second you feel that pressure to perform for someone, maybe a native speaker, your brain just shifts from production into defense mode.
That's a perfect way to put it. Defense mode. It's a self-sabotage cycle, and it's all powered by anxiety.
Okay, so that's the psychological block. What's the other one?
The second one is more technical. It's the deeply ingrained habit of translating everything in your head before you speak.
The translation
The
treadmill.
translation treadmill. Think of your brain like a router. You get a thought in your native language, your L1. The router sends it to the translation server, converts it to English, your L2, checks the grammar, and then sends it out for you to speak.
Wow, when you lay it out like that.
That process adds critical, measurable seconds to your response time.
And that delay is the hesitation. While your brain is doing all that work, you're just silent. And that silence, even if it's just a second, feels like you're struggling to you and to the person you're talking to.
Exactly. So you've got the fear of the mistake, the internal editor, and the translation treadmill, the L1 detour.
So that really sets our goal for this deep dive then.
It does. We're here to unpack really practical, structured ways, drills, phrases, mindset shifts to train your brain to just bypass those two roadblocks.
We're creating a direct link.
A direct, automated link between the thought and the English speech. It's fundamentally about retraining your brain to prioritize speed and flow over getting it perfect right away.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Mm.
So before we even get into any drills, the sources are really clear that we have to deal with our, internal operating system first.
Mm-hmm.
If that first problem is the fear of mistakes, we have to tackle that anxiety head on. So what's the fundamental mindset shift we need to make?
The foundational principle is simple to say, but really difficult for high achievers to actually do. It is. practice, not perfection.
Practice, not perfection. I like that.
And the research is so clear on this. It has to start with a physical and a mental relaxation strategy.
Physical, so not just in your head.
Not just in your head. When your body is tense, shoulders up by your ears, jaw clenched, you're flooding your system with cortisol.
The stress hormone.
Right. And that inhibits higher level cognitive function. It basically forces your brain to default back to those slow, deliberate, translation-based patterns.
So the anxiety is literally slowing down the language part of your brain. It's locking up the system.
It is, exactly. Which means the very first step before any practice, or even before you walk into a meeting, is a conscious physical intervention.
What does that look like?
Our sources say you literally just pause, take a deep breath, and then consciously, intentionally relax your shoulders, relax your tongue.
The tongue, that's interesting.
Yeah, we hold a lot of tension there. And this isn't just, feel-good advice. It's a physical signal to your brain that the pressure is off. It makes it chemically easier to access and retrieve language. You're creating a low-stakes environment inside yourself.
That makes profound sense. If you go into a conversation tense, your brain is doing two jobs: trying to find words and trying to manage anxiety.
And the anxiety management takes up most of the resources.
So you have to unify that energy toward just speaking.
And right after that physical step, the sources talk about the power of positive self-talk, targeted mental conditioning. This is all about replacing that negative, hypercritical inner voice, the one that's yelling about grammar rules, with constructive affirmations. You're reframing the whole situation.
Okay, I have to push back a little here. Isn't positive self-talk a bit sloppy?
Yeah.
If I genuinely don't know a grammar rule, just telling myself I can do it isn't going to fix that.
That's a great question, and it's a really important distinction. These affirmations are not meant to replace learning. They're meant to suppress the internal editor. That's the real source of the hesitation. The goal is to build an immediate trust in your automatic system. Research shows that all that negative self-monitoring, it drastically increases the time it takes to find a word.
So by repeating these phrases, you're building a new habit that says, basically, it's okay to speak now, even if it's not perfect.
Yes, it's about managing the process of speaking, not just the content. You're giving yourself permission.
Okay, I'm sold. What are the specific functional phrases we should be using?
The sources give 3 really powerful ones. They're like a mantra before you practice, and they're engineered to fight those 2 core roadblocks we talked about.
Let's hear them.
The first one is, I can speak English clearly.
Clearly. Not perfectly.
Exactly. The focus is on clarity, getting your message across, not on complexity. If the listener understands your core idea, you have succeeded. It immediately releases the pressure to use some, fancy advanced grammar.
That's huge relief for anyone struggling with, complex verb tenses. We're aiming for communication, not a grammar award.
Precisely. The second affirmation directly tackles that performance anxiety. It is, I don't need to be perfect.
You're literally giving yourself permission to make mistakes.
You have to. You have to redefine what an error is. It's not a failure. It's feedback. It's a data point that shows you what you need to study later. By repeating this, you're telling your brain, it is safe to speak now. Mistakes will not be punished.
And if the brain feels safe, it's not going to waste time auditing every single word before it comes out. It just goes.
It just goes, which is fluency.
Yeah, what's the third one?
The third is about the external side of things. It's, I can communicate with confidence.
Ah, so this is about how you come across.
Yes. It shifts the focus from just your internal ability to your external social confidence. Think about it. Even if your grammar is 90% correct, if you deliver it hesitantly, the communication feels weak.
Right.
But if you deliver a sentence that's maybe 70% accurate, but you say it with clear intonation and conviction, That's way more effective. And you feel less vulnerable, which reduces future hesitation.
It's a positive feedback loop. You project confidence, which makes you feel more confident, which makes you more confident.
You got it.
So to sum this up for the listener, before you do anything, a drill, a conversation, unmuting yourself on a video call, you physically commit, you breathe, relax your shoulders, and you mentally commit. You state those permissions.
Yeah.
I'm here to practice, not to be perfect.
That internal declaration is your foundation. Once that mental stage is set, once you've told the internal editor to take a break, then we can bring in the tactical tools to bridge the gaps.
Okay, I'm ready. Let's talk tactics.
So if hesitation comes from needing that extra second or two of processing time, that moment where your brain is scrambling to find a word or structure a thought,
Yeah.
the solution is not silence. Silence signals a struggle. It feels like a failure. The solution is to fill that space productively.
This is where we get into those tactical delay phrases.
Exactly. I love this strategy.
Me too. It's the difference between pausing and sounding awkward versus pausing and sounding, thoughtful and engaged. They're conversational lubricants.
That's a good way to put it. They keep the energy of the conversation going.
So let's run through some of those specific phrases from the research because these are things you can literally use today.
Let's do it.
First up, the most direct one. Just a simple, time-buying request. One moment. Let me think.
Simple. Straightforward. It instantly buys you 3 to 5 seconds, and nobody thinks anything of it.
Then there's the polite acknowledgement, which is great for more formal situations, like an interview. That's an interesting question.
That one is great because it shows respect for what the other person said while you're secretly firing up your brain to formulate the answer. It gives you a crucial buffer.
Okay, and then there's what I call the soft start, a phrase like, I'm not sure, but I think.
Yes. This one is so important because it gets you speaking immediately. It minimizes that initial pause where hesitation is most obvious. You're launching the output motor right away, even if you don't know where you're going to land yet.
Right, you're moving forward.
And this leads right into the structural starters, which are just invaluable for opinion questions. Things like, in my opinion, from my experience.
These are great because they give you the first 3 or 4 words of your sentence for free. You don't have to think about how to start.
You don't. The start line is pre-made. All you have to do is continue. And it cues the listener that a more complex personal thought is coming, so they expend a slight pause anyway.
That seems almost too easy, but it addresses that exact moment of failure, doesn't it? The brain gets stuck right at the beginning.
It's fascinating why these work so well on a deeper level. First, linguistically, they occupy the speaking channel with a known pre-packaged English phrase. Your brain is forced to stay in English mode instead of switching back to your native language.
Okay, that makes sense.
And second, and this is all about social perception, they make you sound confident and natural even while you're thinking.
Right. If you're silent for 2 seconds, people think you're struggling with English.
But if you say, that's an interesting question, and then pause for 2 seconds, they think you're struggling with the complexity of the idea.
You're projecting intellectual competence, not linguistic incompetence.
You've completely reframed the pause. You're maintaining momentum.
But hold on. If a learner starts using, that's an interesting question, 5 times in one conversation, that's going to sound weird too, right? How do you avoid overusing them?
That's a really valid point. The goal here is natural integration, not just robotic replacement. The sources suggest rotating them.
So you need a few in your toolkit.
Exactly. You use, one moment, let me think, when the thought is genuinely complex, you use, in my opinion, for subjective questions. The key is to have variations and to use them to transition, not just as filler.
So instead of being paralyzed by that silent panic, you just think, okay, I need 2 seconds. I'll deploy a delay phrase. And while you're saying it, your brain is catching up.
It's an amazing trick. It gives your brain the grace period it needs. But you're right, while these are essential for performance to really change how the brain works, we have to move into the intensive training. We have to rewire that translation loop itself.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. We're moving from these tactical maneuvers to like deep cognitive restructuring.
We are.
We've got the mindset, we've got our delay phrases, but now we have to attack the root cause, that translation loop. And the sources suggest these structured, high-pressure drills to force your brain into thinking in English mode.
This is the critical stage. We're deliberately trying to create a direct, rapid link between a thought and the English output, completely bypassing your native language.
You're cutting out the middleman.
We're cutting out the middleman. It's all about cognitive load. For a non-native speaker, thinking in L1, translating, checking grammar, then speaking in L2, it's like running four demanding programs at once. Your brain just slows down.
And that's the hesitation.
That's the hesitation. So these drills are designed to shut down that translation software by demanding one thing above all else: speed.
So how do we start?
The first type of drill uses comprehension as the foundation for rapid production. It's called the comprehension story and rapid Q&A.
Okay, break that down for me.
The learner listens to a short story. It has to be simple, everyday vocabulary. Then they have to immediately answer questions about it, out loud.
Let's use the example from the sources because the simplicity is really important here. The story's about meeting a friend at a cafe, ordering coffee, talking about work.
Right, and making plans to try a new restaurant on Saturday. Very normal, everyday stuff.
So the mechanics of the drill are all about speed. The answers have to be immediate.
Immediate. If you pause to translate the question or to form the answer in your native language, you've missed the entire point of the drill.
You're forcing your brain to retrieve the information in the same language it received it.
It's efficient neural routing. So right after hearing the story, you get hit with questions like, where did they meet?
Answer, at a cafe.
What did they order?
Coffee.
What was the plan for the weekend?
To try a new restaurant on Saturday.
The aha moment here, which the research just keeps coming back to, is that when you answer quickly like this, you stop translating. You start thinking in English.
Why does that happen so automatically?
Because the path of least resistance for your brain is to retrieve the recent memory, the story in the language it was stored in.
Yeah.
English. It's faster to just pull out the English phrase at a cafe than it is to translate that concept into your language and then back into English.
So it's a fluency hack that uses short-term memory. The brain learns that translation is redundant and slow.
And that strengthens the direct English-to-English pathway. Over time, that becomes the default route.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. It moves us from just checking comprehension to actually generating original speech in real time.
Which brings us to drill type 2, short, fast response speaking drills.
Right. So this takes the muscle we just built and applies it to personal questions. This requires you to actually invent your own thoughts in English on the spot.
This is where the pressure really increases. You have to organize a thought, find the vocabulary, get the grammar right enough, and say it. All within, ideally, 3 seconds.
That sounds intense. How do you manage that pressure?
You need a framework. The sources suggest a simplified version of something like the PRP method: point, reason, example, point.
But simplified for speed.
Massively simplified. For these drills, the goal is just PR. State your point, then immediately give your reason.
So instead of building one big perfect sentence, you're just making two small quick ones.
Exactly. It's modular. So let's list some of the practice questions you should be hitting constantly to automate this PR process.
Okay. A classic one is, what do you usually do in the morning? That focuses on daily habits. Simple present tense.
Good. Another is, what do you like to do in your free time and why? That forces you to use preference vocabulary and then immediately justify it.
I like this one. What is one thing you want to improve this week and how will you start? That requires future intention.
We need variation, though, to really train the whole brain. So let's add a few more. How about a hypothetical? If you had 1 extra hour today, what would you do?
Ooh, that's good. It forces you into conditional tenses, which is a big hesitation spot for a lot of people.
Right. Or a comparison question. How is learning English different from learning your native language?
That's tough, but it forces you to use words like more difficult, easier, because, in contrast.
One more, a narrative one. Tell me about the last great movie you watched in 2 sentences. It requires recall and past tense.
But with all of these, the emphasis is always on speed, right?
Always. The faster you respond, the more natural your speaking becomes. Speed is the metric here, not grammatical perfection. If you can answer in 3 seconds, you are succeeding, even if you made a small mistake.
Because you're training yourself to suppress that internal editor, that grammar professor on your shoulder.
You are. In a real conversation, you can't afford to listen to that voice. These drills train you to just accept the first functional phrase your brain finds, rather than waiting for the perfect one.
Okay, let's pause on that idea for a second. If you're always focusing on speed and ignoring your internal grammar check,
Hmm.
aren't you just practicing your mistakes?
Yeah.
How do you avoid what researchers call fossilized errors?
That's the million-dollar question in fluency training, and it requires balance. The goal of these specific drills is to build speed and confidence first.
So you separate the skills.
You have to. The internal editor doesn't go away, you just repurpose it. Once you've built the automaticity through speed, you dedicate separate, slower study time to reviewing your errors.
Like a musician. You perform for flow, but you practice for accuracy.
Perfect analogy. You have to suspend judgment during the high-speed drills. Record yourself, then listen back later and analyze the grammar. But in the moment, it's all about flow.
The output engine has to be running before you can start refining the fuel.
Exactly. And that just requires constant daily repetition. Hesitation is a sign of over-editing. These drills train you to just let go.
So we've dealt with the mental blocks, and we've started the rapid response training to stop the translation. Now we need to look at techniques for building what you call structural automaticity.
Right. This is about making comedy phrases and even the physical mechanics of speech just effortless. We're cementing the gains we made in speed.
So we're shifting focus a bit. Less about generating thoughts, more about the physicality and structure of the language itself.
Precisely. We're targeting rhythm and the retrieval of common structures because those are often the first things to break down under pressure and cause a pause.
Okay, so where do we start?
Technique 1 is shadowing. It's deceptively simple, but it is so powerful. And it works because it lowers the creative cognitive load to basically zero.
So explain the process.
Yeah.
Why doesn't it require any creative thought?
The process is you listen to a recording of a native speaker, and your voice becomes their echo. You lag just a split second behind them, repeating everything they say.
You're not thinking about what to say at all.
Not at all. All of your mental energy is focused on the mechanics. The pronunciation, the intonation, the stress, the rhythm. You are just mimicking sound.
And this is where we get into the physical part, right? Training the mouth and the facial muscles.
Oh.
Why is that so key for hesitation?
It's crucial. Every language has a slightly different articulatory setting. The default posture of your mouth, your jaw, your tongue.
I never thought about that.
Learners often hesitate because they're physically resetting their mouth from their native language setting to the English one. Shadowing forces your muscles to adopt and maintain the English setting.
So when you shadow a quick little dialogue like the one in the source, hey, how's it going? Not bad. How about you?
You are internalizing the pace and the physical shifts needed for smooth production. And even more importantly, you're mastering linking sounds.
Ah, how words flow together.
Yes. Native speakers don't pause between every word. We say, how's it going, as one smooth sound. If a learner tries to say each word separately, they sound choppy and slow. Shadowing trains your ear and your mouth to make those natural links automatically.
So you're building physical muscle memory for English conversation. When it's time to create your own sentences, they'll naturally follow these rhythms you've learned.
Exactly. The key is you have to do it out loud, and you have to do it consistently until those sounds and rhythms just feel normal.
Okay, that makes sense. Now let's talk about the other structural shortcut. Technique 2. Simple sentence frames. This sounds brilliant.
It is. It's about building a library of sentence beginnings that you literally do not have to think about. They become automatic.
They're the scaffolding for most conversations.
They are. If the foundation is already built, you only have to worry about adding the specific details.
So the basic frames from the sources are these really high utility ones. I want to, I need to, I like to, I'm going to, and I plan to.
Let's just take one of those. I plan to. Automating that is incredibly effective. For many learners, expressing a future plan requires thinking about complex verb conjugations, which causes a mental slowdown.
Right.
By automating I plan to, the hard part is already done. All you have to do is add the simple verb that follows. I plan to finish this report. The structure is pre-approved, pre-practiced. It's just there.
And the next step, of course, is to quickly fill in those blanks with your own words.
Yes, you have to personalize it. You take the frame, I want to, and immediately add something from your own life. Go to the gym later, I need to, send this email. It reinforces the fixed structure and your ability to customize it quickly.
And then technique 3 builds on this, right? The finishing the sentence drills.
It does. These are a little more complex because they give you a conditional or an emotional starting point, and you have to provide a logical completion immediately.
The examples from the sources are great for this, like, if I have time, I will.
That one forces you to practice conditionals quickly, which is a huge stumbling block for hesitation.
And tomorrow, I'm going to.
Mm-hmm.
Automates that future tense.
Then there's I feel happy when, which connects an emotion directly to a description. It forces you to quickly access emotional vocabulary and link it to an activity. I feel happy when I finish a good book.
So why are these short frames so effective at the end of the day?
Because they drastically lower the creative energy you need for basic communication. You're not building a sentence from scratch every time. You're just plugging new information into a pre-made automatic structure. It makes rapid speech so much less mentally taxing.
Which means hesitation starts to fade away.
And this all connects back to the bigger picture. We have to reiterate that single vital insight from the source material. You don't need perfect grammar to communicate. You just need clear, simple sentences.
That should be a massive liberation for every learner listening.
They should be. Simple structures used fluently are so much more powerful in a real conversation than complex sentences that you struggle to say. Fluency first. Clarity is the goal.
Such a powerful paradigm shift. We've given you permission to be imperfect. We've armed you with these time-buying strategies. And now we have the drills to actually rewire your brain.
And it all relies on that one thing. Commitment to repetition, non-judgmental practice.
So what does this all mean for you, the learner, moving forward from today? We've covered the whole spectrum of overcoming hesitation, starting with that internal game, the mindset shift.
Practice, not perfection.
Then we armed you with the tactical maneuvers, those delay phrases like, that's an interesting question, for high-pressure moments. And finally, we detailed all of the training, the fast drills, the shadowing, the sentence frames, that you need to actually rewire your brain to stop translating and start thinking in English.
And the overarching lesson here is that speaking without hesitation is a path of physical, repetitive action.
Yeah.
It's not about finding one more grammar rule in a book. It's about doing.
I love the core analogy from the sources here.
It's the best one. Speaking English is like riding a bicycle. You only get better by doing it again and again and again. It requires that raw physical muscle memory, not just theoretical understanding.
You can read every book on how to ride a bike,
Nah.
but you will only learn when you actually get on it and start moving. And you're going to wobble.
You will. You'll lose your balance, you'll make mistakes, but those are just part of the process. Every mistake is just a data point. It helps you adjust your balance for the next try.
It's just feedback.
It's just feedback. And we want to leave you with 2 final powerful affirmations from the source material to use every single day. Before any speaking task, say these to yourself. The first is, I can speak English without hesitation.
A declaration of capability.
It is. And the second one is just as important. I trust my English.
Trusting your English. What does that really mean?
It means accepting that the language is already in there. It's stored, it's waiting. The only barrier left is that fear, that slow habit of retrieval. Trust is what finally silences that pesky internal editor.
So if achieving fluency is really just dependent on repetition and simple clarity, as all these sources suggest, we want to leave you with a final provocative thought.
A challenge.
Challenge. Given this low-stakes environment we've encouraged you to create for yourself, what is one daily low-stakes interaction you can commit to starting tomorrow to get back on that bicycle?
Is it ordering your coffee using one of those delay phrases?
Is it setting a 5-minute timer and just doing the fast response drills out loud in your car?
Yeah. Or maybe just shadowing 3 minutes of a podcast dialogue. Start small, start simple, and trust the process of repetition to eliminate that pause.
Keep practicing, keep speaking, and your English will become more fluent, more effortless, and more confident than you thought possible.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into finding your confidence and flow.
We'll see you next time here in the Motivated Mind Zone.